Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 9 of the Average Fan Podcast, and I am joined today, as always, by Michael.
Yeah, my week's been good, Ben. Outside of the weekend, the Sunday, so normal stuff. We've had an election going on in our state, much like most states probably, since it's election day. But there's also been this today. We'll go over it later. The trade deadline. So it's been an
Yeah,
exciting day watching notifications fling by.
it has for sure.
How's your week been, man?
My week has been pretty good. It does a lot for your mental health when you don't watch Michigan State football. So avoiding that was probably the best decision I made for myself this week.
Did y'all play this week?
We did. We lost in overtime. So officially 6 straight losses. I mean, I don't really care. So I'm kind of rooting for 3-9 because that means our coach is gonna be out the door.
He'll probably still be 6 straight losses is an out the door type of thing.
So that was good. It was a pretty, again, I think last week we felt like we might be getting into a place where we might know who's good, but this week proves once again that we truly have no idea how good any team or players are right now. And I mean, we can just dive right into the recap, but I mean, when I first saw Thursday night game, I watched most of it. I really wasn't surprised. The Ravens were far and away the better team than the Dolphins, and um, they just, I mean, I'm sorry for you because I know you lost to the Dolphins a couple weeks ago, but I mean, they really don't look good.
Yeah.
Even though they had the same yards, 3 turnovers, and Lamar Jackson just completely returned to form.
Yeah, dude, I watched a good bit of this game as well. It was kind of like it was like sad watching Miami go out there every time just to kick 2 field goals in the first half and then just get touched the whole game. I mean, like when you look at all the stats, like everything is like very familiar, like similar, not familiar. The only like the time of possession is only 3 minutes off. The penalties are within 11 yards. Baltimore has one more first down. Like you said, the yards are, but it's just that turnover margin. Tua, and honestly, 2 of the turnovers were strip fumbles, I believe, which was very good on the Ravens defense. They seem to be revitalized with Lamar Jackson, but also like I think it was just Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's just so vital to this team that like they're literally like shit without him. A great game to come back on against the Miami Dolphins, throwing 4 touchdowns, 2 to Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I'm
Clearing away the better team.
clearing away the better team. For the next one is, yeah, one I'm sure you're not very happy about, but that is, the Patriots go up to 7-2. The Falcons drop yet another game. I did see Cardi B was at this game. I don't know how you feel about that,
That
but
shit, like it's cool that she's there, but like when they start posting about it, be like, oh, they got there and went for Cardi B, like.
I'm Drake London tried to carry this team on his back, and I mean, I truly, from what I've seen about this game, it was no one's fault other than the coaching once again.
So yeah, I'm gonna read you guys just a couple of quick stats. Nothing crazy. Just and this is gonna be defensive stats. We'll start off with the Atlanta Falcons, and this is just the Falcons stats. Sacks. We had 6 sacks. We had 3 people with 2 sacks. I'm gonna shout out Brandon Dorless, shout out Jalen Walker, but shout out LaCale London. Those of you out there probably know one name, which is Jalen Walker, but the other 2 pretty big. We had 1 interception for Jesse Bates. Great throw, everything like that. I think we also had James Pierce Jr. with the fumble recovery, one of those Jalen Walker sacks where like a good recovery. Drake May. I mean he has a QBR of 50.5. They threw a lot in the first half, and then we kind of locked in. But it literally takes Drake London going God mode to us be even in the fight. We have no wide receiver 2. Darnell Mooney is there. He's supposed to be doing stuff, but he's not. We dropped Ray Ray McCloud because he was, shitting on the team because we lost 30-0 against the Panthers, and here we are. Nobody else is catching the ball. The first half in this game, Bijan Robinson had like 5 rushes, and all 5 are between 2 drives. It's horrible coaching. I understand Michael Penix is supposed to be this big prospect in their eyes, but like, and he went 221 for 3 touchdowns. He was only sacked once, but nevertheless, you have Bijan Robinson on your team, who is averaging good points, like good yardage, and you're just not going to run with him the whole game. You're just going to go, like, most of our drives were 3 and outs, 3 passes. Maybe one time we had 1 rush for like no yards, and then the rest of them were just passes. You know what I mean? So it's pitiful. Zach Robinson, I want to announce I'm completely done with this coaching staff. The only person I mess with right now is Jeff Ulbrich. That man did his job. Those stats that I read before with the defense, that man did his job. Zach Robinson is a failure. We need to fire him. He needs to go. Raheem Morris, I really just don't know what he does. I understand he's like a big chemistry guy, team leader. No, he's not really hands-on. He might be involved in the defense, but the way Ulbrich is moving right now, he has more hands-on. So he's at best a defensive assistant. On the offense, I know he ain't doing nothing, and if he is, he needs to stop and let if Zach Robinson is being pulled back due to Raheem Morris, whatever. But that's probably not the case. Zach Robinson has his schemes. He likes his plays he likes to call, and he hopes that our players will fit into him. Sorry, man. The square block won't fit in the circle hole. You just need to put the circle block in the circle hole. It's just what you need to do, man. This is the epitome of coaching disaster. The first half was horrid. If anybody watched that game, you'll understand. This is our 3rd straight loss. This was an expected loss, but we could have won. That late resurgence, they were not stopping us, and we were stopping them. All we needed was a lead.
Didn't you punt it at the end of the game too?
And there's a whole nother thing right there, because there was an early snap from the center that led to an incompletion that ended up leading to an intentional grounding call, because nobody was ready for it. Everybody panicked. And some people want to say that the Patriots are clapping or the fans. I'm not gonna. They just have to be better. They got a first down from a penalty and then still had to call a timeout to not get another penalty. Not the first time something like that has happened. That's horrid, and that's shameful. It's just the coaching is, you make the players feel good, but then you don't know how to coach games properly.
Yeah.
And these are things that I know Raheem Morris should know how to do it. He's been around some really good teams that have won Super Bowls. I just don't know what's going on. We've also, Parker Romo, the one who missed the extra point that ended up making us lose, he got waived, and we have signed Zane Gonzalez. Some of you may know him. I like Zane Gonzalez. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I hope everybody except Jeff Ulbrich gets fired in the Atlanta Falcons.
I mean, I kept an eye out on this game. From what I could see, yeah, you guys kind of did not come out hot, and then towards the end of it came out really cold. But then I saw at the end of the half it was 14-21, and I was like, oh, this is still winnable. And then it seems like you guys didn't do anything again until the very end, and then at that point it was too late. Which, I mean, yeah, it's just always frustrating, but
it's horrible.
I mean, I think you covered pretty much everything. I don't have much else to say.
Yeah, we'll just move on to this next game, because I'd love to forget about this, which is the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Tennessee Titans. This is a lot closer than anyone would think between a 6-3 and 1-8 team. It's 27-20. I think Justin Herbert threw an interception that went for a touchdown. That was the first score of the game. Then the Chargers responded. The slowly but surely, these Titans are figuring it out, which really makes me think Brian Callahan was like completely shit. But I think this is mostly like a defensive victory here. They also had a punt return touchdown. So the offense is still slow, but improvements.
It wasn't as close as the score suggests. It was. The Chargers thoroughly outgained the Titans. basically on everything. I mean, yes, they had the turnover. A pick six is always a bad thing, but those you can't really count on getting more than one of those or two of those even an entire season. Which I mean, knock on wood, maybe you have a really good defense, but for a team like the Titans, yeah, I mean they just didn't. Again, I've been seeing that they're historically just a bad team, and I just feel really bad for Cam Ward. This team just is like it's just stinky. This team is just really stinky, and there's nothing really good to even look like. There's nothing about this team that's like, oh, well, at least this player is good, or this. It's just like, no, this just sucks for you.
I think you look at like the top like people in the for the team, the best player is like their linebacker Cedric Gray. He getting 16 tackles and a sack and a tackle for loss. That was their best player in the game probably, outside of maybe the pick six guy and the kick return or the punt return for a touchdown. Shamir Dyke and then Cody Barton. Yeah. That's it. Everybody else should be sad.
Moving on to the next game, which could have been game of the week,
this one
is the Chicago Bears beating the Bengals, which I was very excited for them to lose. I mean, Joe Flacco threw for almost 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, Caleb Williams had a good game too, but I mean, again, the Bengals lost this game. They had 3 turnovers. They were outgained on possession. Basically, every statistic they didn't do as well, and yet all they had to do was stop the Bengals from scoring a touchdown, from marching just marching all the way down the field. That's it. They just needed to get one stop, and they could not do it. I mean, they got an onside kick. Like everything was going their way until they just completely failed. I mean, really, there's no other way to put it. It was just a complete, thorough fail.
I don't know. I'm not going to say every player on the Cincinnati defense sucks because it's not true. It's just not true. You have a lot of really good players. So, the question now turns to coaching. How does coaching constantly fail this? Because, I mean, you look at this fourth quarter, right? And this is how it reads, right, for the drives. Yeah. I'm just reading Cincinnati here. I'm just Chicago. You have a field goal, touchdown, punt, touchdown. That's their whole drives in the fourth quarter. The Bengals had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One of them ended in a pick, but that's a lot of time. That's a lot of possession right there. And there's 3 scores that happen in like 2 minutes at the end of that game as well. So this also might be a coaching malpractice. I mean, historically, the Bengals have one of the worst front offices.
Just a completely inept organization.
Yeah, it's very inept. You want to give T. Higgins $200 million. You want to give Jamar Chase $200 million, and that's definitely what they're worth, sure. As a result, you have no people on your defense, no people on your offensive line, and then on top of that, you pair them with Zach Taylor, who's a mediocre coach at best, and then whoever they got at DC. Don't know, don't care. I hope he never gets promoted because that guy sucks. The Bears, on the other hand, Ben Johnson is pulling out the works.
Caleb Williams receiving touchdown.
Yeah, receiving touchdown alongside 3 other touchdowns. Colston Loveland.
Yeah, from University of Michigan.
Bomb touchdown, 58 yards to win the game. He also had one earlier in the half. Bears offense is finally looking like an offense. Their running back had 176 yards. It's just kind of like they got ran over and then they got dunked on. And then all Cincinnati needed to do was just get one stop. Just one stop. The locker room is in a lot of array because a lot of the offensive players are very frustrated because they did what they did.
You don't lose games when you score 42 points. Like, that shouldn't happen if you have even just a mid or bad defense. This is a garbage defense. Only in that case do you lose a game and you leave, you put up 40 points, but you give up 50. That's just so impressive.
They did their job. The Cincinnati defense failed. Not to say that the Cincinnati or the Chicago defense is also pretty bad to give up 42.
Yeah, exactly.
Their offense could score 47, so not a good defensive showing. Put that in the back of your head when you start thinking about defenses. These two, not that good. But that's pretty much all I gotta say about that.
The next game is the Colts, who everyone thought was the best team in the league, getting blown out by the Steelers. especially with the Steelers not looking very good. Suddenly, Daniel Jones, I mean, is he going back to his New York form? We don't really know. It seems to me that Shane Steichen was trying to run the offense through Daniel Jones rather than Jonathan Taylor. And no hate to Jones, I don't think he's good enough for that. And that's okay because he's good enough at being a game manager, letting the talent around him elevate the whole team. But I don't think that you can put an entire game on the back of Daniel Jones, which is unfortunate and, kind of exposes a weakness in this team.
This game was not indicative, what the score says at the beginning of the fourth quarter. It was 24-7. There was just a late resurgence. Daniel Jones, 3 interceptions, threw 50 times, 1 touchdown, 3 picks, 342 yards. Jonathan Taylor, who has been the consensus offensive MVP, multiple 3-touchdown games, you only rushing with him 14 times for 45 yards. It's crazy. So, like you said, chances are, they were just trying to, switch it up a little bit, attack Pittsburgh a little differently. But, when good teams always mess up by trying to do things a little differently. Maybe, not expose too much of what they're trying to do, later down in January. Man, you can't completely switch up what you're good at, because then you're just trying to get too sweet. You just got to do what you're good at, run the ball, play your football instead of trying to do something different. Learning experience for Steichen. He seems like the kind of guy that will actually learn from it.
We know he's a very capable coach, and I think that he will see this as oh, this didn't work. We're gonna go watch the tape. We're gonna run it back. And maybe this was just an off game. Anything can happen, and they'd rather get blown out by the Steelers now than in the playoffs if they had to meet them again. So
pretty much all I got to say about that. This next game, which is going to be San Francisco 49ers versus the New York Giants. Same thing here. The score was not indicative of how the game went.
No, yeah.
It was pretty clearly, the 49ers were up. The Giants started scoring a little. Obviously, San Francisco was able to keep stacking on. They ended up winning by 10. Christian McCaffrey, 28 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown alongside 5 receptions, 67 yards and a touchdown. You got to love having somebody like him.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants are 2-7. I really don't see a way that Brian Daboll keeps his job. I mean, I don't know how he kept his job last year or even the year before. I mean, we know Jackson Dart is better than Daniel Jones, and if they have Malik Neighbors healthy and they have Scadaboo healthy, this is a good team. But I just think the incompetency of this organization runs very deep. There's no excuse losing at home to a team where 2/3 of their starting roster is on IR. And when it comes down to something like that, it's a coaching difference. So, truly, I mean, we've all know that Kyle Shanahan's an excellent coach. Brian Daboll is not. That's all I have for this game. Our next one is the defensive showdown of the week, which was Broncos versus Texans. CJ Stroud left this game with a concussion. We hope he's okay.
I think a late or dirty hit or something like that.
I think the Texans would have won this game if CJ Stroud had stayed in, which just really sucks for them because it's not out of any, you can say that about any player, but especially with the quarterback, it's always so obvious how much difference they make on and off the field. It's so apparent. As I was saying last week, and I think we were on the same page, it's okay, the Broncos had a really good offensive showing. Can they keep this up? If they can do it against the Texans, then I'll start buying in. Bo Nix did throw for 2 touchdowns, but he also had a pick. It's hard to fully buy into this team. I know the Broncos are 7-2, and I'm not going to take away from that, but still, it just feels like they're barely scraping by. And again, they're finding ways to win games, but especially when they were down, they had to score 11 points in the fourth quarter. Again, they were down 7-15. You can't keep winning games that way.
The only thing I think that saved Denver was just the fact that all of the Houston scores were field goals, 5 field goals. Kyrie Fairburn had 20 points on fantasy because I have him. I was very happy about it. Still lost, but beside the point. Like you said, 7-2, more power to you. My team's not 7-2, so who am I to judge? But at the same time, should you face any of the other playoff caliber teams in your division alone, there's a good chance that you're getting dogged. If I pair the Denver Broncos up against Indianapolis and they play one more time, do I think that the Broncos are actually going to win that game? No, because the offense is so like mid. They're like the epitome of mid. The defense is good. Nobody can ever say the defense is bad. This is one of the best defenses in the NFL.
And yeah, it's true that defenses will win championships. I do think the Broncos can be a legitimate Super Bowl contender, but it's what offense are we gonna get that day? Is Sean Payton gonna be calling a stinker? Is he gonna lay an egg, or is he gonna be kind of dialed in as to how to elevate Bo Nix, elevate the team, and dissect their opponent's defense?
It seems like, because I know Sean Payton likes his defense. He kind of benefited from Drew Brees back in his prime. How it's presented now, your offense is stagnant. You're the epitome of average. Where do you build from here? Because you're pretty much set schedule or like win-loss wise down the line. You'll be able to probably tote yourself into the playoffs regardless, but are you gonna be able to make yourself feel like you belong? To which I don't think so. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for this Broncos game. So we'll move on to this next one, which again not Ben's favorite. I mean the Minnesota Vikings versus the Detroit Lions. I don't know. I didn't watch this game, unfortunately, so I'll leave the big speculations for you. Minnesota edges out a victory in a late comeback survival, I think, by 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, again, and I'm sure you understand this. Just any fan base does this, but once again, all of the fans of the Detroit Lions are like fearing that the season is over. And this game was not pretty. The play calling was really bad. But we're forgetting that on a lot of these drives, we also got back-breaking penalties. One of our starting guards broke a bone. They're probably out until at least late December.
Oh my.
Yeah, our O-line didn't play well. Jared Goff got sacked 5 times. I mean, we just didn't play a good game. And people forget that Ben Johnson, yes, he's an excellent play caller, but he really, especially in your first season, he didn't have the best called game every single week. Sometimes, you come out of the bye week and you're locked in, and sometimes you come out of the bye week and sometimes a bye week doesn't actually help you win. And I'm curious what you think about this, Michael, but I don't want to sound like I'm coping. I'm just saying this in the sense of you get 2 weeks off and bye weeks are important. So I'm not saying that I wish we had more for the players to rest, but I think it's easy to kind of see it as a vacation, in which they do deserve, these players play hard. They deserve some time off. I think there's something to be said about when you're locked into like the routine of each week you get ready for the game. You play the game on Sunday. You have the week you play, like you have that consistency. And I think it can be easy to either overthink a game, not prepare. I mean, JJ McCarthy came out. I mean, he only threw for 143 yards. He played well, and Kevin O'Connell's a good coach. I just think they had a better game plan. I think we didn't make adjustments. I think our O-line kind of fell apart. And we can bounce back from this. Dan Campbell is excellent at doing that. So the season's definitely not over. I'm not saying I'm bullish on our new offensive coordinator, but like the sky is not falling. We lost by 3 points to a Vikings team that has an excellent defense and is well coached.
One of the things that I think people forget about a lot, divisional games, man, are just slugfests. I mean, you're playing a team that knows you pretty well.
Yeah.
This team, this is the first game. It sucks to lose at home. You just have to get them back when you play them in Minnesota at the end of the year. Kevin O'Connell knows your style of play. These two coaches know each other pretty well. And as a result, you see close games like this. I mean, J.J. McCarthy throws from 143. Yeah, he has 2 touchdowns, but like that's not really like a game worth being like, okay, they played well offensively. So then you have to look at what happened. Did you have a lot of turnovers? No. Sometimes, you just get the better of them. It's so rare for teams to sweep. Chances are, for you guys, you're just going to have to go 1-1 by winning away. But like you said, it's not nearly over. This is not a team This is not a game that's indicative of how strong your team is. In a couple weeks when you guys play the Eagles, that's going to be an indicative one. At the end of the year when you play the Rams or the Steelers, that's probably going to be indicative. How you perform in those kind of games, very important how you're going to play in the playoffs. A team like Minnesota, while yes, they're not as good, they still know you. This game, they had your number. Just get theirs next game. I think you guys are going to be all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with how, the Falcons didn't put up any points on the Panthers. And I know the Panthers have a winning record right now, but still, the Falcons are the better, like they have more talent. They laid an egg, and then the next week, the week after that, they bounced back and destroyed the Bills. Like, you can literally have complete opposite games any week. So I'm really not worried about it. We'll see next week. We're playing the Marcus Mariota-led Commanders, which we'll get into later. For this next game, another example of anything can happen. The Green Bay Packers are so confusing because one week they will, destroy a top team, make it look like it's nothing, and then they'll lose to the Cleveland Browns or the Carolina Panthers where Bryce Young throws for 102 yards. Like, that's just, objectively, that's just hilarious. Like, how on earth did you lose this game?
What I see, this defense is pretty good. It's not a statistical defense. You're not going to get 5 sacks a game. They only ended with 1. They have 4 tackles for loss, 6 QB hits. Those are things that are indicative of great pressure. They didn't let Jordan Love stay comfortable. Jordan Love ends up throwing an interception later on because of it. If I remember right, I don't remember right. Offense did have a fumble. So the defense was able to keep them on their toes, keep them uncomfortable. Green Bay was punting a lot, only getting up to field goals, and, getting a touchdown late in the game for Green Bay. 2 Rico Dowdle touchdowns throughout the game. That's what really clutched you here. This was a great call, called game. Not offensive, but just in general for Carolina. Rico Dowdle was the right move, putting him in over Chuba Hubbard. Bryce Young, like you said, only throwing 102 and throwing an interception, barely above 50% completion rating. Not a big stinker from him. Obviously good enough, but now you have to ask the question. Our team is good. You have a good team with good, coaching, but your quarterback's suffering. Is Bryce Young really the answer? Maybe that might need to be a question that the Panthers fans need to ask, but their team is starting to settle in. This is what good coaching looks like, Atlanta Falcons. So use the Panthers, who are 2 games above you, as an example. Yes, they
play to your
Michael
strengths.
Penix, but yeah, you got to play to your strengths. You see Rico Dowdle 25 carries. They quickly learn that throwing the ball is not going to work, and one would think that the thing you do against this defense in Green Bay is not run the ball, because you have all these built guys up on the line like Micah Parsons. But as you can see, you just got to play your type of football, which is exactly what they did. It didn't help that the Green Bay Packers had the shittiest jerseys known to man.
And Jordan Love threw like the worst pass I've ever seen that should have been an interception in the end zone. Like,
oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, that one's tough. And that's just panic setting in. It's got to be. I won't believe it any other way. But good one on the Panthers. This is where Carolina is exactly where most people thought Atlanta would be. That's the coaching difference right there.
But yeah, so moving into the next game, another surprisingly good one, which is the Jaguars taking on the Raiders. The clip of Pete Carroll losing his mind at the Raiders not getting the 2-point conversion was really funny, and I just think it kind of represents the Raiders organization as a whole, because I guess it's overtime, you kind of have to do it, but I wouldn't trust this team to do anything. So going for 2 just seemed kind of like an easy way to just lose the game.
Listen, I understand, big baller move. You're trying to win the game, obviously. Go 2-yard line plays are not Pete Carroll's specialty. This is just another, from what I can see, this is exactly what happened with the Falcons. Like bar for bar, exactly what happened with the Falcons. You have a completely stagnant offense outside of your Lord and Savior Brock Bowers, who drops 3 touchdowns on the head of a decent defense. And then it's just all for naught because you lose by 1 point. These sting because this is an indicative failure. You know, when you lose these games, you stare at the TV in silence for 30 seconds because you just had to immediately turn the TV off. You can't even hear the post game. You know, these are the type of games where like the announcers sound like they're glazing the other team too much. Because this is by no measure a great game by Jacksonville. You know, Trevor Lawrence ain't doing too well. Etienne did all right. Defense did all right as well. Still almost let up 30 points. Technically should have been 30 points, you know, had they gone for the regular kick. Maybe just because there was only 3 minutes left when they scored their touchdown in overtime. Or sorry, there's only 16 seconds left. They were going, you know, we either win or we lose. Understandable. Some people just hate ties. Still, I bet you if you watched this game and you weren't a fan of it, it was probably pretty entertaining. The only takeaway that you get to leave from this is that Brock Bowers is Jesus. I'm so proud to have him as a former UGA player. You know, he's the type of player where it's like, you know, he's getting shipped to hell in Las Vegas, but like he's just so good. It doesn't like he's gonna shine, and that's what he does. I love Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers is a beast. Didn't he come from Georgia?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so he proves that he is like just a top receiver in the game. Period.
Yeah, actually in general.
For the next game, one I know you're very happy about is the Saints fall to 1-8 versus the 6-2 Rams. Stafford again drops 4 touchdowns. Kyron Williams gets a touchdown. I mean, they're just a well-rounded team. 438 yards of offense is always just something you have to be happy with. Tyler Shuck is not good. Is he better than Spencer Rattler? I don't really know. They're both not very good.
I mean, personally, I honestly thought Spencer Rattler, given, you know, the mantle that he's accepting, he did pretty well. You know,
Yeah.
He's definitely the better of the 2 quarterbacks. I think he's younger of the 2 quarterbacks, more experienced, the whole 9. You know, Kellen Moore, great offensive mind, but I mean, you're rushing 6 times with Alvin Kamara, and let me see how many times they targeted Alvin Kamara. Once. So when you have one of the premier receiving backs, you know, the guys who catch the ball, and you throw to him once, and then you only rush with him 6 times, I mean, he's the best player on your offense.
Yeah.
Like, the best player. Like, he scored 6 touchdowns in one game before, and you're just not going to throw to him at all? You understand that the Rams might be trying to shut him down. Start calling the plays that you know work for Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara needs to be more involved, you know? I should never see Taysom Hill with 4 carries, 30 rushing yards, leading the team in rushing. I should never see that. That's disrespectful to the game. So, Saints are in an interesting spot. You know, I'm glad that they know that they suck. Our season could always be that when we're 1-8, but we're not. This was like, I don't think I ever for a second thought like it was going to be close.
Yeah.
Because like even when the Saints scored their 10 points in the second quarter, it was 20-10. So like I don't know. The Saints are in a bad place.
No, the Saints are in a really bad place, and I love it. For the next game, we had one of the games of the whole season, which I did predict that the Bills would lose, but the Chiefs fall to 5-4. It just seems like they had an off game. The Bills always seem to dominate the Chiefs, even last year when they went 15-2. In Buffalo, Josh Allen single-handedly carried this offense on his back. 3 touchdowns, no picks, only missed 3 passes. Their defense locked in. I was very impressed with how Buffalo played.
Yeah, I mean, you know, let's not discredit James Cook over here. 27 carries, 114 yards. Dalton Kincaid also had 6 receptions for 101 yards. You know, they definitely spread the wealth out. And you look over at Kansas City, you know, you see 49 rushing yards, 8 of receiving yards. They just need a wide receiver, one, like a real, like Rashee Rice, great, but he's a wide receiver too. And that's just, you know, that's not to say he doesn't have the skills to be one. He's a great player nonetheless. The team sparked their offense when he came back. You need a go up and get it guy.
Yeah.
You need somebody who, it doesn't matter how closely they're guarded, they still have a chance at the ball. Right now, you throw a 50-50 ball to a Chiefs wide receiver, and it's really a 60-40. There's no mismatches, really. Travis Kelce has size, but, his age, he's slow, he's not explosive, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So their offense is just full of a bunch of players with what seems to be a glass ceiling. So that kind of, like gives a glass ceiling to their offense. In big games, it doesn't seem like they're competing super well. Patrick Mahomes said it best: we need to learn from these losses, which is something they got to do. Good on the Bills though for coming out and playing their football. Like you said, Josh Allen 3 touchdowns. He did carry the offense, and the whole team. They just got outcoached. Time of possession is one of those that you look at. So good on the Chiefs, or good on the Bills. Sorry, I still don't. The season's not over for the Chiefs. They will claw their way into the playoffs.
Yeah, they always do.
They always do. But this is just how it turned out for this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's all I gotta say about that one. We'll move on to this next one. This Monday Night Football, or not Monday night, Sunday night. Sorry. This game was brutal. If you're a Washington Commanders fan, this is between the Seattle Seahawks and Washington Commanders. 38-14 thrashing. I mean, you go into halftime and it is 31-7.
Yeah, not good.
31-7. In the second half, you only scored 1 touchdown, both teams. It was pretty much over. They played 2 quarters and they just clapped it and ended it there.
Jaden Daniels had probably one of the worst injuries I've ever seen.
I have not seen it. I'm not going to look at it because I didn't realize how bad it was until I saw a bunch of reaction videos from like Barstool people, and I was like, okay, maybe I don't watch it. I think it was like a fractured forearm, so his shit was.
His elbow went the wrong direction.
Yeah,
and that's all I need to say.
That is all you need to say. So that sucks for them. Hopefully this doesn't turn into a Robert Griffin III type of deal. Seattle's offense is looking excellent. It sucks to have injuries, but coaching malpractice. You know what I mean.
Yeah, Sam Darnold, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick. Saw that he didn't miss a single pass in the first half. I mean, that reflects. It just seems like they kind of took their foot off the gas, and that's understandable. I mean, you don't really need to keep pushing when you're up 38-7.
Yeah, not really.
But that's all I have to say. And then for our last game this week on Monday Night Football, which I wasn't able to watch, I didn't really want to watch it, was Cardinals versus Cowboys. The Cardinals get their 3rd win this season. Jacoby Brissett's actually playing very well. Marvin Harrison had a good game. Trey McBride had a good game. I mean, hopefully this team's clicks. I like the Cardinals personally, so I hope that they're able to kind of lock in and keep winning.
Funny enough, Jacoby Brissett just got named the starter from here on out.
Yeah.
Kyle Murray is benched, which is very funny to see. Their run game is picking up still. Their 3rd stringer, 14 carries, 79 yards. Good on the Cardinals. They played phenomenally. They were up the whole game. I don't think they really lost the lead.
Yeah.
Dallas, on the other hand, they looked pitiful. We'll start talking about this soon. They just got a good 2 additions to their defense. They might not be the same team that we thought anymore. They still got to learn from these losses, learn how to properly defend and score on, teams that are itching to get a win. There's no easy wins here, even though they think, you might have like such a great offense that you should be able to do whatever. No, man, you're also you're also 3-4. You're not so much different from these teams that you're facing just because you can score 40 points. And you learn that here. Great on the Cardinals, calling for a win here, especially away. Cowboys got to learn, how to properly prepare for a team.
Jerry Jones is probably so mad.
Yeah, he's probably so mad, which is why he made these moves that we'll talk about. Honestly, we just hop right into it since that was the last
let's
game.
hop right in. Yeah.
So instead of having the scheming for the week, we're just going to go over the trade deadline news. That was today, which is Tuesday, at 4 p.m. There's no more trades allowed for the rest of the year, so everybody usually throws in, the big pieces. I don't know if you want to go one for one, but we'll just go over these quick, trades that happened earlier in the year. Eagles traded for running back Tank Bigsby of the Jags. Saints traded for Jalen Polk from the Patriots. By the way, he hasn't really seen the field, so they just gave him a 6th rounder for free. The Jets trade for Jarvis Brownlee to the Titans. or from the Titans. I think it's from the Titans. Who knows? Doesn't really matter. Cleveland, Cam Robinson from the Texans. The Bengals got Joe Flacco from the Browns. The Chargers got Odafe Owe from the Ravens. Probably butchered that. But the Ravens also got Aloe Gilman. Probably butchered that. One of the trades that broke here on the podcast, quote unquote broke. Greg Newsome and Tyson Campbell for the Jags and Cleveland, and then we start getting into.
There's some big ones today.
There are some big ones today, and to be honest with you, I'll let you go over them since I'm just reading all these. If you just want to, you go ahead and hop.
Yeah,
it's just a bunch of no-namers.
Yeah,
had left.
The first, which I'm sure we all saw, is the Colts gave up 2 first-round picks for cornerback Sauce Gardner. I mean, he's having a really good year. I think now the Jets, with the other trade that I'm going to get to, have 4 or 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years, which, I mean, that's awesome for them. That's how you rebuild a team, and they definitely need it. The next is also the Seahawks traded for wide receiver Rashid Shaheed. They gave up a 4th and 5th round selection to get him. He's a good wide receiver. I think it adds some good depth. I know they have Cooper Kupp, they have Jackson Smith-Njigba, but especially when you have a good offense, it seems like they're clicking. Why not go in for another depth piece that just makes everything better? And then finally, the one that I also wanted to highlight was the Dallas Cowboys getting Pro Bowl defensive tackle Quinyon Williams from the Jets. Which also, they gave up a first-round pick for that. And they gave up Mozzie Smith. Jerry Jones seems to be using some of that draft capital he got from trading Micah Parsons to hopefully rebolster that defensive line and stop the run, which is something they desperately need to do.
Yeah, this was a very good trade deadline for Dallas. They also traded a 7th round pick for Logan Wilson, linebacker out of Cincinnati. I think Logan Wilson's going to get re-signed, so not too bad. 7th rounder. He plays better than any linebacker they have going on right now. For this, for Quinnen Williams, Dallas getting rid of Mozzie Smith. I have a Dallas fan as a friend, and he was very happy Mozzie Smith is gone. A couple of, not as big but still pretty decently big trades. One of them was the Logan Wilson trade. Another one is the Jags are trading for Jacoby Myers for a 4th and a 6th round pick next year, and then the Phillies got Jalen Phillips for a 3rd round. Phillips has some injury history. Otherwise, he's a pretty good edge. So, great pick by Philly. Oh, also Philly traded for Jair Alexander for a 6th rounder, which is pretty interesting. Along that, Sauce Gardner trade, I do want to say, Donnie Mitchell, A.D. Mitchell, some know him as, was also in that trade. So, a lot of interesting shakeups. Like I said previously, Dallas is probably going to have some improvement to their defense. They can stop the run. But, Quinnen Williams is just, he's a Pro Bowler for a reason. He still acts like a Pro Bowler. Another team, the Falcons have to play Indianapolis next week. I don't know if Sauce Gardner is going to be there since he probably isn't even going to get into Indianapolis until tomorrow, though there's not a ton that you have to learn to play corner. So we'll probably end up seeing him. They'll try to throw him on Drake London probably. They saw what he did to Christian Gonzalez in New England. Hopefully it won't matter, and we get to win in Berlin. Oddly enough, we have a weird presence in Germany. The Falcons do. So I have a fear that they're going to sound more like a home game in Berlin than they would in Atlanta. I'm hoping that's not true, but we'll see. Very not the biggest trade deadline that we've ever seen, but this was still when I looked at my phone at 11 p.m. and I saw Sauce Gardner get traded for 2 first-round picks, I was still like, what the hell? That's that's pretty much it for the trade deadline. Nothing else big happened. I know a lot of teams were disappointed they didn't really get in there, but that's just the way it goes.
I don't have anything else to add. I will say just for my team with the Lions, I know a lot of people are frustrated with their GM Brad Holmes because the issues we're having, they wanted us to try to get a guard, but I feel like anyone who knows ball about trading is usually, especially offensive linemen, very rarely get traded, especially good ones. because they're such a high asset. And we don't need to go out and spend first or second round picks on them if we can just draft them. Yes, people are frustrated, but I don't think that people are saying, "Oh, I'm buying out of this regime." Like, I was watching this guy live streaming the trade deadline, who's a Lions fan, and he just was like going off on the way this team was being run, and I was like, I think that the Lions is one of the best run organizations that we have, just because we're not going all out on a piece that we don't even know if it's going to work out is worth it. You know, yes, I agree. Sometimes you don't want to be conservative with the front office, but when you just extended Aiden Hutchinson for like $40 million a year, I would be more like, oh, we are keeping this guy. We're not going to have to deal with the whole Micah Parsons thing that happened. Like, we're not going to have to trade him because he's mad that we're not going to pay him. Like, I'd rather have a competent front office. And it's like, yeah, maybe we don't win the Super Bowl this year, but we're keeping the key pieces here for 4 or 5 more years.
Yeah, dude, it's not like the trade deadline is the only time you can get players. Yeah, the Lions have a built team. Most of the teams complaining are ones that really don't need, you know.
No, most teams that are contenders don't trade. Last year we traded for an edge rusher because we needed one, but we still have Penei Sewell on our line. We still have Taylor Decker, who is good. I know he's getting old. We still have Christian Mahogany's hurt. We have Tate Ratledge, who I know you know he's a dog. Our center isn't very good, but we have backups. Like, there's no reason that we need to send the whole house for a good guard that we'd have for a year, because part of the reason they get traded is they have an extension coming up. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
And it's like, not every, you know, big player that you think you can get is a need, you know. Did the Colts really need a cornerback? No. I mean, you don't get to 7-2 with a horrible cornerback room, you know. But like, it's like, your team is well built. It's well built.
Yeah.
It has a lot of homegrown talent, a lot of great chemistry. I don't think you guys are just a team that trades for or, you know, away. So it's just what it is.
And another thing this guy was talking about that really pissed me off is he was like, "Oh, we're not good at getting late draft picks." And he was like, name good players we have from the 5th, 6th, or in 7th rounds who's a starter, and then he named 3 people that we can't bring up. And it's like, how often do you get a starter from the 5th, 6th, or 7th round? Not often. So the fact that you can get, on average, maybe 1 or 2 a year from a 5th, 6th, or 7th round is a sign that they're good at finding gems in later rounds. Yeah, you're not going to get a crazy good player every year. Those are depth pieces. Those are backups you're drafting for cheap. That's what they're for. And also, I would just consider day 3. I know round 4 is still earlier, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is a round 4 pick. That already opens the door for more. Like, the way this guy was talking, it just seemed like he was really trying to find something to be mad about. And like you're just saying, it's like, that's so stupid. It's like, okay, well, name some 7th round picks who become starters. It's like, yeah, Brock Purdy and Tom Brady are the only 2 I know of off the top of my head, and that's 2 players over 2 decades. Like,
I mean, I will say Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round, the beginning of the 6th round. But
yeah.
But either way, it just sounds like you got rage baited by a dude trying to get some clicks.
Yeah.
Which is funny to see. Some people are just weird. I think certain NFL fans are weird, and they're just like the vocal minority that don't know ball. You know, you guys are still in a great position, especially your division's not like the worst. For in terms of making the playoffs, you guys are just edged out in the 2nd seed, but you do have a division win, and the Bears with the same record as you have none. Your win is against them. So hopefully you guys can keep winning from here and just overtake the Packers in terms of record in general. You know, it's still very open. You know, no need to jump off the ship yet, and I know you're not, but
we're still 5-3. I'm sure you would much rather the Falcons were in a 5-3 position. As long as you can maintain a game or 2 above 500. I mean, that's ending 11-6 or 10-7. Like, winning 10 games is already so good. That's usually almost always good enough to get into a wild card spot.
Yeah, exactly. And most teams can't win double digit. That's the whole point. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for this trade deadline segment. You know, we'll just go ahead and move on to these predictions for week 10. we'll get this out the way. Teams on the bye week: Cincinnati Bengals, Tennessee Titans, Kansas City Chiefs, and Dallas Cowboys. So the Cowboys in their trade, Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson, they get to sit on them for a week and teach them. That'll be good coming out. Dallas is probably going to look like an entirely new team. We'll just go ahead and we'll rip these games. This AFC game, Thursday night football, probably a game I'm not going to watch. Denver Broncos versus the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't have to explain too heavily what I'm doing. It's home in Denver. I'm going to take Denver. Brock Bowers is a god, but you can only do so much.
Yeah, I think Denver is just going to completely. I mean, we saw what the Chiefs did. And like we said with divisional matchups, like weird things can happen, but I think for the Raiders, it's weird in the bad sense for them of like they get completely shut out and get 2 first downs. Like, I just think that they're going to get destroyed. I think Denver is going to go up to 8-2. For this next game, my thought for this is it really entirely depends between the Jaguars and the Texans whether or not CJ Stroud plays. Right now, I'm just going to assume he's out because I haven't heard otherwise. And in that case, I'm going to pick the Jaguars. Again, it's a divisional game. It'll be a good game. And if CJ Stroud plays, then I think I would be leaning towards the Texans just because of their defense and they were playing better. But I'm going to go with the Jaguars here.
Yeah, understandable. I'm also going to take the Jags. The only difference between my Jags pick and yours, I don't think CJ Stroud playing matters. Texans have a very stagnant offense like we've talked about. The Jags just bolstered their offense, and they don't have a bad defense. Liam Cohen seems to be coaching pretty well in a divisional game where, this is something that could matter, especially trying to compete for the division title against the Colts. This is a game that they're going to play very seriously. So I'm going to take Jaguars for that reason. Moving on to this next game, New York Jets versus the Cleveland Browns. I don't, knowing that the Jets just imploded both of their star players on their defense, I'm going to safely assume Cleveland's going to win this one even though they're away. The offense got bolstered, quote-unquote, with John Mechie and A.D. Mitchell. I don't think those guys are game changers, at least not yet. Maybe they are with the right hands like Aaron Glenn. But for all intents and purposes, I got to go Cleveland here.
I agree. I think, again, especially with the Jets kind of just giving up all these big pieces, I think that they're accepting that this is kind of a tank season. And if I'm being honest, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Because you're already 0-7 or 1-7. Your one game kind of came against the Bengals, who just genuinely have like the worst defense I've ever seen. If anything, I think it gives you the draft capital. You can get the first overall pick, and then you can be like, oh, do we want to draft back? Do we want to get more first rounders? It just opens up so many more opportunities for what the Jets want to do to rebuild. And if you have a good GM, again, Aaron Glenn, you might need to give him a few years, but he seems like he's good at motivating guys. And if he can hire the right people, then I think the Jets are they're ready to rebuild. And I'm not saying they're giving up like the players are giving up, but more in the sense of the Browns have a much better defense. The Jets defense might have been the only thing keeping them in games, and now they gave up 2 of their key pieces. So I do think the Browns will come out with a win here. Moving on, we have an AFC East divisional game between the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. Again, I think the Bills pretty handedly win this one. Again, the Dolphins they're not good. I don't have much more to say except the Bills have had the Dolphins number and they will continue to do so. I hope Tua does not get hurt this year.
I'm going to go Bills as well. It's not easy to sweep a team unless you are a top contending AFC team trying to sweep a bottom contending AFC team, especially divisional. Like I said, these teams know each other. The Bills, I think, will just strong arm them. They're better in every facet. The only way that they win is somehow Miami takes the top off of the Bills defense. I'm not very confident that's going to happen, especially without Tyreek. So I'm just going to go Bills here. Everybody's expecting it. The next game is Los Angeles Chargers versus Pittsburgh Steelers. This one should be a good one. I don't think both teams, but the Chargers have been on a roll. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers have been suffering a little bit. They did just beat the brakes off of Indianapolis. They don't have enough pieces really that I can see a clear victory against the Chargers. So I am going to take the Chargers. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's my pick, and they're at home, so it's just more proof towards picking the Chargers.
Yeah, I agree with you. I know Joel is out for the season, unfortunately, but I still trust the Chargers more here. I think they're better coached. Herbert is definitely the superior quarterback. It doesn't seem like these O line changes are. Obviously they're making it harder for him, but he seems to be just able to rise to the occasion, which is impressive. Moving on to the next game, and Michael, I just every week I'm like coming in to think of, oh, is this a game that the Falcons can win? And like seeing the Patriots last week and then the Colts this week, I'm sorry for you. Like I just feel bad
Yep.
because you guys have a tough schedule, and I kind of just have to go with the Colts here because with an international game, that's another thing that can just be really weird. Do you also, I want to ask, do you think you're gonna get up to watch this? But yeah, I feel like the Colts probably win this one pretty handedly. We'll just have to see kind of what happens in Germany.
I will be getting up to watch this, unfortunately. I'm expecting a fourth straight loss. Not very confident in the team to coach properly, especially when there's so many detrimental factors like being in a completely different country, playing on completely different turf, and being in a completely different time zone. This is probably most of these players' first time ever being in Germany, so there's also that aspect of it. It'll probably be a bit closer than people expect, just because the way our defense is playing, and we have Drake London and Bijan. Hopefully, our coaching staff learns from their mistakes. Should we drop to our fourth straight loss, I would hope our manager or our owner fires the coaching staff. I would hope, but not very confident. It is what it is. So, Indianapolis win there. This next game, this could be a decent game. The Ravens versus the Vikings, coming off a mini bye. The Ravens look to hopefully start picking up wins. Lamar Jackson is back, and Lamar Jackson, I feel like in general is good against blitzes, just because he has that that movement. You can't blitz him as much as you would other quarterbacks, because he's the one that can make you pay. But with Lamar Jackson back, it changes so much. J.J. McCarthy is back from Minnesota. I don't think it matters. I'm going to go Baltimore.
Yeah, I agree here. I just think, especially with them it seems like they've kind of shifted the momentum in the last few weeks, which I'm very impressed by. And like you said, Lamar Jackson's good at avoiding sacks. And when you run the blitz and the quarterback breaks out, that gives them room to run. So it runs the risk. We'll see if Brian Flores is able to kind of adjust. They do have a healthy defense now. I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota won because the Ravens defense isn't necessarily super good right now, but I'm also going to go with the Ravens. For this next game, we have the Patriots taking on the Buccaneers. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers here. I just think that with experience, coaching, and just overall talent on the team, I think the Buccaneers are just going to be more prepared coming off of a restful week. Again, the Patriots, I think, could win any games this year, but especially with it being Drake May's second year, being the first or second year of a rebuild, I just don't really see the Patriots pulling this one out, but we'll just have to kind of see what happens.
I'm actually going to go Patriots here. This could be bias or whatever. I think one of the weaknesses for Tampa Bay is that their secondary is very thin. You have maybe one good defensive back. The rest of them are average or bad. And the Patriots just have a pass-heavy offense. And they make you think twice before you try to blitz or something like that. It was one of the things that got their offense going so much is that the Falcons were afraid to blitz against them because they could just easily, get good matchups, throw one-on-one over the tops, and then probably take those down. So for that reason, I'm going to go Patriots. I think their offense just matches up greatly with the Tampa Bay defense. But if they do win, it's probably going to be close. Yeah, that's it for the AFC versus NFC games. We're going to move on to the NFC totally. This first game is going to be Chicago versus the New York Giants. I'm going to go Chicago here. Ben Johnson seems to figure out how to score points with their offense. The Giants have apparently found out how to allow points with their defense. So, I foresee that trend continuing and Chicago taking a victory at home.
I do think that Chicago wins this one. I just think that I will say, I do think this is kind of a trap game. It's giving me trap game feels. I still think Chicago comes out on top, but again, like I said, and I've continued to say since the beginning of this entire season, Ben Johnson reminds me of Mike McDaniel a little bit, where he's able to destroy teams with a bad defense. What did he do against the Bengals? 50 points. What did he do against the Ravens literally a week before they lost by putting up 21 points? And the Giants do have a good defense, especially the run defense, which is where the Ben Johnson offense starts. Now, do not think the Bears are going to lose this game, especially with how Brian Daboll does have like a coaching masterclass like once or twice a year. He had Drew Lock put up like 400 yards last year. I do get a feeling that this could be a trap game for the Bears. They might be getting a little bit high on themselves.
That's true.
I would just say this is on trap game alert for me. I'm still going to pick the Bears. I still expect them to win, but this might be closer than expected. For the next game, we have an NFC South matchup, the Saints versus the Panthers. I fully expect the Panthers to win this game. The Saints are just kind of completely lost right now. They're a one-win team, and I think they're going to be sent to the depths of being a 1-8 team or 1-9 team.
The way that this division's looking, Panthers, really the Saints are just beatable by everybody. I don't think there's going to be a game that they go to where they're considered favorites. So I'm just going to go Panthers here. Their defenses looked great. The Saints offenses looked abysmal. Pretty clear how we're feeling there. 1-9 Saints. Gotta love it. Moving on to this next game. We have the Seattle Seahawks versus the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona, haven't looked the best. You have Jacoby Brissett taking over your starting role, but you have to play the Seattle Seahawks defense, or offense, sorry, that's looked exceptionally well. Super Bowl level, to be quite frank with you, except they just traded for Rashid Shaheed. So now, not only do you have to deal with Jackson Smith and Jigba, crossing you up and then giving you a 60-yard touchdown on your head, now you got to worry about Rashid Shaheed, who literally just runs straight and then can still give you 60 yards on your head. So, pretty clear Seattle win here for me at home.
Yeah, I completely agree. I do think the Cardinals, like every game this year, I think they will do a good job of keeping it very close. But I do have to agree with Michael. I just think that they have the better quarterback, the better receivers, just the better team. And then we also have another NFC West matchup with the Rams taking on the 49ers. I do expect the Rams to win this one. I know they lost to the 49ers earlier, but Sean McVay's a good enough coach that, and I feel like the most you can ask for with the division is being able to split with each team. I don't think you should ever be mad about that. It's hard enough to beat a team twice, so if you can just do it once, that should be good enough.
I'm with you here. Los Angeles is probably going to win this one. They lost to San Francisco when San Francisco had a full defense. They don't anymore. The Rams are not a team where you can afford to be on injured reserve. The 49ers have lucked out playing a bunch of teams that don't have intelligent coaches. This one does, especially one that knows you well. Kyle Shanahan can only do so much. Honestly, a game like this, you're hoping for a Christian McCaffrey masterclass. That's how San Francisco wins this game. I don't think they will. So, Los Angeles for me. Moving on to this next game, Washington Commanders versus Detroit Lions. Marcus Mariota can only beat teams like the Raiders. The Detroit Lions are not like the Raiders by any margin, so I'm going to go an easy Detroit victory away.
I agree. I think the Lions are really, really pissed off. And we saw what they did to the Bears after their first kind of bad loss. They still have the full capacity to put up 50 points. And again, their offense is the problem here, but especially with it being Marcus Mariota, they don't really have a lot of pieces healthy. This team is old. I think the Lions are going to kind of get some anger out on the Commanders, and I will also preface this with, you can blow the Commanders out and still be a mid-team. And I'm not saying the Lions are a mid-team. I'm just saying my own decision on, do I think we're good? Do I think we're mid? We're not bad by any means. But just the scaling, you shouldn't let this suddenly swing in the other direction of, we're so back. Just keep in mind that we have struggles, we have issues. Hopefully this gets cleaned up. And for our Monday night game, We have a rematch of the Brazil game last year and of a playoff game, which is the Packers versus the Eagles. Eagles are coming off of a bye week. I do think the Packers, dropped 2 in a row here. And I just think the Eagles are the superior team in terms of coaching and talent.
I'm not going to say that they're the better coaching team. I think both of these teams have great coaching, but I'm still going to agree with you on the victor. I'm going to go Philadelphia here. This bye week is a great thing to prepare. The Eagles have 2 ways to attack this Green Bay defense. It doesn't seem like this Green Bay defense does what it should on paper. I'm hoping for a big game from A.J. Brown. I really need some points from A.J. Brown. I need him to play as well. Questionable right now at the hamstring. I'm just going to go Philadelphia here. It'll probably be close. We'll use this moment about A.J. Brown to kind of teleport over to our next segment about fantasy football before we let you fellas all leave here feeling refreshed and reformed. I'll start real quick. I lost last week in one league. I won in another. The other league, I beat them by like 70 points. They didn't check their team. It is what it is. In this other league, I lost Tucker Kraft to his ACL. And I got a big stinker from Chicago running back Vidal and Javonte Williams. Williams is a bye week. I also accidentally left T. Higgins on my bench. He gave up 30, or put up 30. I was going to put him back in this next week, but he's also on a bye week, so, lucky me. I'm hoping I can get Dalton Kincaid from waivers. Somebody dropped him because they needed space, stealing that guy from him. Right now, hopefully I can get him. If not, I'm going to pick up like Zach Ertz or something. The team's looking a little bit rough. Running backs, J.K. Dobbins, Bijan. Wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Flexing Wan'Dale Robinson. I have a good kicker, and I'm starting the Lions defense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like I'm in a bad spot for most of my team. Even without my tight end spot, I'm projected 118. I'm just also going against the number 1 team in our league.
I think we play each other this week.
Oh, and do we?
Yeah, and mine. This week I won, and the one that Michael and I are in. Matthew Stafford, 4 touchdowns. Bijan, and that's the thing, even when Bijan has a quiet game, he still puts up like almost 18 points, which is just impressive. David Montgomery with 11, Zay Flowers with 11, Cameron Sutton with 10, Trey McBride for 16.5, Rashee Rice for about 17. Broncos defense did okay, and then I had the Bills kicker who was just okay. So it's gonna be another matchup. I won the first one. Maybe Michael will split with me.
Yeah, maybe. ESPN is so annoying to look through because I just want to see week 10, and it won't show me. Whatever. Surprisingly, for like the first time this year in this league since like week 2, I have no questionables on my team. So you're playing a fully healthy lineup, buddy.
I am. You're playing me too. So this is just gonna be a real test of who the better ball knower is.
Yeah, because right now I'm 7-2.
I'm 7-2 as well. This might be the decision on who gets the 1 seed.
Whoever Beach and Boobs Incorporated is, he's leading.
She's
leading.
I cannot believe you, Michael. That's so disrespectful.
Oh well, I'm sure she doesn't watch and won't see it.
No, does not watch probably. So
not to disrespect your team, but that's just who's first. There's a chance that they might lose this week. And whoever wins between you and I take first place. It's very possible.
Yeah.
This is literally a battle of the Titans. So we'll see who we remember.
It is. Let's see who will get remembered. For anyone who's still with us, thank you for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing, and we will see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.